Have you seen that Sin child? Hearing the calm voice of the man in the green robe, Xun'er Huang and Liang Evil Fish both slightly trembled and quickly nodded. Why didn't you inform me in advance? The man in the green robe asked gently. However, despite his gentle tone, both Xun'er Huang and Liang Evil Fish looked a bit pale and bitterly said, "Originally, we intended to capture him first and then let the young master decide. This was our oversight. Please punish us, young master." The man in the green robe gently tapped his knee with his long fingers. He glanced at the two of them indifferently. As they sweated profusely, he slowly spoke. "Although you acted without permission, considering you have followed me for many years, I will overlook this. I will explain this to the great elder and ensure you avoid punishment." "Thank you, young master." Upon hearing this, both Xun'er Huang and Liang Evil Fish were overjoyed, quickly bowing respectfully with gratitude in their eyes. "I've heard that Sin child seems to have cultivated the sacred floating pagoda." The man in the green robe smiled slightly and asked. Xun'er Huang nodded and said, "Young master, this Sin child is exceptionally gifted. Just with the power of an upper earth supreme, he was able to put us in a difficult situation. Based on my investigation, he must have cultivated the sacred floating pagoda. Otherwise, with his upper earth supreme's spiritual power, he wouldn't be so strong." The man in the green robe narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. "He truly is the son of Qing Yanjing. I didn't expect that even without the resources of the Futu ancient clan, he could still reach this level." Liang Evil Fish gritted his teeth and said, "That Sin child may have some ability, but compared to young master, it's like the difference between a firefly and the bright moon. That's natural. The young master is a peerless genius, a once-in-a-thousand-years talent from our Futu ancient clan. In the future, he will lead our clan. That Mu Chun is nothing in comparison." Xun'er Huang nodded repeatedly in agreement. At this point, Xun'er Huang's tone faltered, and he hesitated. "However, when fighting that Sin child, I found that he actually had two avatars, each with the same strength as his true self. It was extremely troublesome. I nearly lost because I wasn't prepared. Two avatars with the same strength as his true self?" Upon hearing this, the man in the green robe's gaze suddenly flickered, and a contemplative expression appeared on his face. After a while, he said, somewhat moved, "Could it be? The one Qi transforms three purities, one of the legendary 36 supreme divine abilities?" The black-robed heavenly supreme, standing nearby, also changed his expression slightly, nodding and saying, "Normal spiritual avatars only possess about 1/10 of the main body strength. To have an avatar with equal strength to the true self, only the one Qi transforms three purities from the legends could achieve that. However, the one Qi transforms three purities has not appeared for many years. I didn't expect that Sin child would have such incredible fortune." As he spoke, even the black-robed heavenly supreme couldn't hide his envy. After all, a supreme divine ability of that level was extremely tempting, even for a heavenly supreme like him. Such a powerful supreme divine ability, only the young master could match it. What does that Sin child have to deserve it? Xun'er Huang said bitterly, clearly trying to provoke the man in the green robe to take action. However, the man in the green robe remained calm and unshaken, replying indifferently, "The one Qi transforms three purities is indeed tempting, but right now, I have no time to trouble him." The black-robed heavenly supreme also nodded, saying, "The young master is right. The ancient sacred abyss is approaching, and the top priority now is to perform perfectly in this sacred abyss. If the young master can obtain the long-lost supreme divine ability of our clan, the Eightfold Pagoda, then you will undoubtedly surpass all other competitors and become our clan's next leader." Eightfold Pagoda? Upon hearing this name, both Xun'er Huang and Liang Evil Fish were startled, unable to suppress their shock as they exclaimed, "Could it be the Eightfold Pagoda, one of the 36 supreme divine abilities from the legends?" The man in the green robe smiled lightly and said, "What's there to be surprised about? The Eightfold Pagoda was created by our ancestors. However, the ancestor who created it fought with the demon emperor of the extraterritorial evil clan in the ancient sacred abyss and unfortunately perished. As a result, the method to cultivate the Eightfold Pagoda was lost. Over the years, Our clan has done everything possible to retrieve it, but has failed. Have you seen that, Xun'er? Hearing the calm voice of the man in the green robe, Xun'er and Liang Evil Fish both slightly trembled and quickly nodded. Why didn't you inform me in advance? The man in the green robe asked gently. However, despite his gentle tone, both Xun'er and Liang Evil Fish looked a bit pale and bitterly said, "Originally, we intended to capture him first and then let the young master decide. This was our oversight. Please punish us, young master." The man in the green robe gently tapped his knee with his long fingers. He glanced at the two of them indifferently. As they sweated profusely, he slowly spoke. "Although you acted without permission, considering you have followed me for many years, I will overlook this. I will explain this to the great elder and ensure you avoid punishment." "Thank you, young master." Upon hearing this, both Xun'er and Liang Evil Fish were overjoyed, quickly bowing respectfully with gratitude in their eyes. "I've heard that Xun'er seems to have cultivated the sacred floating pagoda." The man in the green robe smiled slightly and asked. Xun'er nodded and said, "Young master, this Xun'er is exceptionally gifted. Just with the power of an Upper Earth Supreme, he was able to put us in a difficult situation. Based on my investigation, he must have cultivated the sacred floating pagoda. Otherwise, with his Upper Earth Supreme's spiritual power, he wouldn't be so strong." The man in the green robe narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. "He truly is the son of Qing Yanjing. I didn't expect that even without the resources of the Futu ancient clan, he could still reach this level." Liang Evil Fish gritted his teeth and said, "That Xun'er may have some ability, but compared to young master, it's like the difference between a firefly and the bright moon. That's natural. The young master is a peerless genius, a once-in-a-thousand-years talent from our Futu ancient clan. In the future, he will lead our clan. That Mu Chun is nothing in comparison." Xun'er nodded repeatedly in agreement. At this point, Xun'er's tone faltered, and he hesitated. "However, when fighting that Xun'er, I found that he actually had two avatars, each with the same strength as his true self. It was extremely troublesome. I nearly lost because I wasn't prepared. Two avatars with the same strength as his true self?" Upon hearing this, the man in the green robe's gaze suddenly flickered, and a contemplative expression appeared on his face. After a while, he said, somewhat moved, "Could it be? The one Qi transforms three purities, one of the legendary 36 supreme divine abilities?" The black-robed heavenly supreme, standing nearby, also changed his expression slightly, nodding and saying, "Normal spiritual avatars only possess about 1/10 of the main body strength. To have an avatar with equal strength to the true self, only the one Qi transforms three purities from the legends could achieve that. However, the one Qi transforms three purities has not appeared for many years. I didn't expect that Xun'er would have such incredible fortune." As he spoke, even the black-robed heavenly supreme couldn't hide his envy. After all, a supreme divine ability of that level was extremely tempting, even for a heavenly supreme like him. Such a powerful supreme divine ability, only the young master could match it. What does that Xun'er have to deserve it? Xun'er said bitterly, clearly trying to provoke the man in the green robe to take action. However, the man in the green robe remained calm and unshaken, replying indifferently. "The one Qi transforms three purities is indeed tempting, but right now, I have no time to trouble him." The black-robed heavenly supreme also nodded, saying, "The young master is right. The ancient sacred abyss is approaching, and the top priority now is to perform perfectly in this sacred abyss. If the young master can obtain the long-lost supreme divine ability of our clan, the Eightfold Pagoda, then you will undoubtedly surpass all other competitors and become our clan's next leader." Eightfold Pagoda? Upon hearing this name, both Xun'er and Liang Evil Fish were startled, unable to suppress their shock as they exclaimed, "Could it be the Eightfold Pagoda, one of the 36 supreme divine abilities from the legends?" The man in the green robe smiled lightly and said, "What's there to be surprised about? The Eightfold Pagoda was created by our ancestors. However, the ancestor who created it fought with the demon emperor of the extraterritorial evil clan in the ancient sacred abyss and unfortunately perished. As a result, the method to cultivate the eightfold pagoda was lost. Over the years, our clan has done everything possible to retrieve it, but has failed. It seemed that his attempt to show off had failed. Luoli, who was behind, couldn't help but cover her mouth and giggle softly. Lingxi also smiled faintly, then formed a seal with her slender fingers. Suddenly, a wave of spiritual energy emanated from the earth, and the dark prison began to fade into illusion, eventually vanishing completely. Lingxi, so you had already taken control of the great array here. Long Xiang exclaimed in surprise upon witnessing this. The spirit arrays here were set up by Aunt Jing. I have been in seclusion here for 3 years, so naturally, I've mastered all the arrays. Even if you hadn't come, Xun'er Wang would have been unable to do anything to me, Lingxi replied with a light laugh. Upon hearing this, Chen and the others exchanged looks, and then they all smiled bitterly. It seemed they had put in all that effort for nothing. As the three of them stood there in silence, Lingxi's face brightened with a gentle smile. Of course, Chen, the fact that you came to rescue your sister makes me incredibly happy. Her smile was pure and captivating, radiating a genuine sense of emotional warmth. However, the fact that you were able to come here really is a sign of your good fortune. Lingxi looked at Chen, who was gazing at her with a look of curiosity. She extended her delicate, jade-like hand and gently tapped the smooth, mirror-like black stone floor. Immediately, a faint glow radiated, as though a starry sky had formed on the ground. What she said next made Chen's eyes widen in shock. Because here lies a gift from Aunt Jing for you. My mother left me a gift? Chen's eyes sparkled with excitement, his gaze fixed on Lingxi, clearly intrigued by her words. Lingxi smiled softly, then with a flick of her jade hand, the area where she had been seated began to shine with a ghostly light. The glow was deep and mysterious, as if a brilliant starry sky had formed on the ground. In that starry sky, countless light points appeared, resembling stars. Chen focused intently on the starry sky above the black stone, and as he observed the star paths, he felt a subtle, profound wave of energy emanating from within. Aunt Jing once secluded herself on Emerald Spirit Island. In this black spirit mirror, she left behind many insights and experiences regarding spirit arrays. This is a treasure beyond description for any spirit array master, especially since it was left by a true grandmaster of spirit arrays. Lingxi's beautiful eyes gazed deeply at the starry ground, and she softly said, "For the past 3 years, I have been meditating here. 2 months ago, I finally broke through and reached the level of a high-rank spirit array grandmaster." Lingxi, you've reached the high-rank grandmaster level already? Upon hearing this, Chen's face showed astonishment. When they had last parted, she had still been a spirit array master, yet in just 3 short years, she had attained the status of a high-rank grandmaster. Such rapid progress was simply shocking. Before I lost my memories, my understanding of spirit arrays was already close to the grandmaster level. Over the years, as my memories returned, so did my previous level. In addition, my time in seclusion and the teachings left by Aunt Jing allowed me to progress at such an astonishing rate, Lingxi explained with a faint smile. Chen finally understood, but gradually he also came to accept the news. After all, Lingxi had always possessed exceptional talent in spirit arrays. Coupled with her time spent with his mother, absorbing knowledge and experiences in spirit arrays, it was no surprise that she had such a strong foundation. With years of focused cultivation and the insights left by his mother, such progress didn't seem too out of the ordinary. Moreover, what was most important was that Lingxi specialized in spirit arrays, dedicating herself to it without distraction. Unlike him, who had split his focus between spirit arrays and battle arrays while also strengthening his own spiritual power, it was only natural that Lingxi's achievements in spirit arrays would surpass his own. Lingxi nodded lightly, then flashed a radiant smile. During this time, you should stay here and focus on your cultivation. I believe it will be of great help to you. Whether you can reach the level of a high-rank grandmaster in spirit arrays depends on your own talent and fate. Chen licked his lips, his eyes burning with desire. Over these years, since parting ways with Lingxi, he had been exploring spirit arrays on his own. Although he had now reached the level of a spirit array grandmaster, if it came to the depth of his knowledge in spirit arrays, he was undoubtedly far behind Lingxi. And now, his mother had left behind a wealth of insights and experience in spirit array cultivation here, an unimaginably precious gift for Chen. With these insights, he stood a real chance of advancing his spirit array mastery. If he succeeded, he would step into the level of a high-rank grandmaster. At that point, even if he encountered Xun'er Wang again, he could defeat him without relying on the Heavenly Emperor's sword. Seeing Mu Chen's eagerness, Lingxi smiled, rose gracefully to her feet, and said, "From now on, this place is yours." Mu Chen nodded and, without hesitation, stepped forward and sat cross-legged upon the smooth, mirror-like black stone floor. His eyes briefly met Luo Li's before he slowly closed them. "Let's go. He'll need some quiet time to cultivate here," Lingxi said softly, giving Luo Li a gentle smile as she took her hand and led her away from the depths of the dungeon. As the two figures disappeared, silence once again descended upon the chamber. Within the quiet, Mu Chen's mind gradually calmed, like a deep, still pool with no ripples. Drip. No one knew how much time had passed. Somewhere in the stillness, a drop of water echoed through the chamber, sending ripples through the tranquility of his mind. As the ripples spread, Mu Chen sensed the world around him begin to shift. He felt as though he was seated amidst a vast starry sky. Beams of starlight streamed past him, dazzling and surreal. Suddenly, one of those beams of light descended before him. As it coalesced, a graceful figure slowly emerged from the glow. Her long dark hair flowed freely, her lips held a soft smile, and her gentle features radiated serene elegance. Mu Chen was stunned. Mother. Even with all his composure, Mu Chen was frozen in place, eyes wide with disbelief. He hadn't expected to see his mother here. Although he understood that this was merely a spirit shadow, he hadn't seen her since their parting years ago on the North Song continent. "My child." As Mu Chen stared in shock, Qing Yanjing looked back at him, dazed. Then, tears welled in her eyes as she stepped forward and gently embraced him, her arms trembling slightly. Though she was only a spirit shadow now, her emotions remained linked to her true self. In her arms, Mu Chen, usually so composed, found his mind going blank. For as long as he could remember, he had yearned for this very warmth in his mother's embrace. Yet such a simple wish had always seemed impossibly far away. Even if she was just a spirit shadow at that moment, Mu Chen felt an indescribable warmth flood his heart. And in that moment, even his hardened heart could no longer hold back. His eyes turned red. "You've truly grown, Mu Chen." After a long while, Qing Yanjing finally released him. She studied him closely, not missing a single detail, and a smile of deep pride bloomed on her gentle face. Mu Chen scratched his head and chuckled awkwardly. "You must have come to Emerald Spirit Island to meet this spirit shadow of mine," Qing Yanjing said with a warm smile as she ruffled his hair. Mu Chen nodded. "Sister Lingxi said you left something for me here." Qing Yanjing smiled again. "Only Lingxi, and you could enter this place. The insights I left behind were meant only for the two of you." She gave him a knowing look. "Now, show me your most powerful spirit array. Let your mother see how far you've come." With the conversation turning serious again, Mu Chen perked up. Without hesitation, he flicked his sleeve, sending countless spirit seals fluttering like butterflies into the air and merging with the void. As the seals disappeared, a massive spirit array began to take shape. Echoes of dragon roars rang out across the star-filled space. This was, without doubt, Mu Chen's most formidable spirit array, the 9 dragons devouring immortal array. Qing Yanjing gazed at the array and gave a small nod. "Now this is interesting. I hadn't expected your spirit array skills to have reached the level of an intermediate grandmaster." Her voice carried a hint of reassurance. After all, relying on herself to cultivate her spirit array skills to this level could already be considered a talent of extraordinary potential. With this level of achievement, you've certainly reached the threshold of mastery in spirit arrays. Upon hearing that even a mid-stage grandmaster could only be considered to have reached proficiency in spirit arrays from Qing Yanjing's mouth, Mu Chen couldn't help but click his tongue. If this were on the Tianluo continent, a mid-stage spirit array grandmaster would probably be enough to start their own sect. However, when he thought of his mother's identity as a grandmaster of spirit arrays, he understood that, in her eyes, what was considered a grandmaster might be nothing more than just crossing the threshold. Now, your understanding of spirit arrays has reached a small level of achievement, but perhaps in the future, the path ahead may seem unfamiliar. Upon hearing this, Mu Chen also fell into thought and nodded gently. He knew that the future path Qing Yanjing spoke of likely referred to the realm of grandmaster. At his current level, Mu Chen was indeed completely at a loss, without any insight or understanding. Generally speaking, spirit arrays begin with connecting to the heavens and earth, drawing upon their spiritual power to summon wind and rain. Just like you are currently at this stage. And the so-called grandmaster isn't about communicating with the heavens and earth, it's about creating a world of your own. A spirit array becomes a world in itself, and anyone who enters it becomes an enemy to that world. Qing Yanjing smiled faintly. She clenched her jade hand, and an exquisitely crafted spirit array, no bigger than the size of a palm, appeared in her hand. The array was delicate beyond imagination, but when Chen looked at it, his scalp went numb. He could feel the terrifying power emanating from that small spirit array. If he were to fall into it at this moment, death would be inevitable. This is the so-called Grandmaster level, to transform a spirit array into a world of its own, where anyone who enters it must fight against the power of the world. Chen gazed at it with an expression of awe, completely entranced. Qing Yanjing's words had opened a door he had never imagined before. He finally realized that the higher level of spirit arrays was so profound and unbelievable. No wonder, reaching the Grandmaster level was enough to rival the Heavenly Supreme. Qing Yanjing looked at Chen, who was lost in admiration, with a gentle smile. She extended her slender jade finger and lightly tapped his forehead. Instantly, a flood of vast and ocean-like information surged into his mind, continuously pouring into his consciousness. These were her many insights and experiences in the field of spirit arrays. If Chen could carefully study and absorb them, it would undoubtedly enhance his spirit array skills significantly, even laying a solid foundation for him to eventually break through to the Grandmaster realm. The light gradually enveloped Chen, and his body remained motionless, as if he had fallen into the deepest slumber. Far away, in the ancient Futu clan, in a dim, secluded space, Qing Yanjing's true body trembled slightly. She slowly opened her eyes, gazing into the void, and a gentle smile slowly appeared on her lips. Chen, your mother is waiting for the day you become a Grandmaster. On Emerald Spirit Island, time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, a month had gone by. In a bamboo pavilion on the island, Luo Li and Ling Shi were sitting together, a chessboard placed on the stone table in front of them for entertainment. Occasionally, smiles would appear, and their beauty would bloom so magnificently that even the surrounding bamboo forest seemed to pale in comparison. During Chen's time in seclusion, they had clearly decided to stay on the island and wait. Swish. As the two women played chess, suddenly, an elderly figure appeared like a ghost in the pavilion. The red flame old immortal, wearing a bitter expression, looked at Luo Li with pleading eyes and asked, "Little girl, are you really unwilling to become the saintess of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan?" In the past month, the red flame old immortal had asked this question countless times, but each time, Luo Li had refused with a shake of her head. This time, however, Luo Li sighed helplessly and said with some regret, "Senior, I am now the empress of the Luo God clan. How could I abandon them to become the saintess of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan? Besides, I have no blood ties to your clan." The red flame old immortal scratched his head and said, "My Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan is not like those stubborn and outdated ancient clans. We are the most inclusive. We don't care about bloodlines. Even if the bloodline is thin, as long as the talent and character meet the standard, you can still become the saintess. Our clan will not reject you for that. In the history of our clan, we've had many talented non-bloodline saintesses who were deeply respected by the people." Upon hearing this, even Luo Li was a bit surprised. A clan with such tolerance was truly rare. It felt like their Luo God clan, where someone without Luo God bloodline could become the empress. Luo Li, the senior is right. The Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan is indeed one of the most inclusive ancient clans in the Great Thousand World. Ling Shi nodded, then sighed. If only the Futu Ancient Clan could be the same, Aunt Jing and Chen wouldn't have to be separated for so many years. Luo Li nodded lightly, but still did not give her consent. She was no longer the naive young girl she once was. Now, she understood that the more ancient and powerful a race was, the more factions it would have. Even within their small Luo God clan, she had already encountered enough troubles. If she were to truly become the saintess of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan, no matter how accommodating they were, there would surely be fierce competition. It was obviously a very deep pool, and Luo Li had no intention of getting involved in such murky waters. Seeing that Luo Li remained resolute, Red Flame Old Immortal couldn't help but feel a bit discouraged. He sighed, "Such a pity. I had hoped to make it in time for the Ancient Sacred Abyss." Ancient Sacred Abyss? Before he could finish, Ling Shi's beautiful eyes suddenly narrowed as she exclaimed, "Isn't that the notorious dangerous place in the Great Thousand Worlds, one of the battlefields where the ancient world fought against the extraterritorial evil clan?" Red Flame Old Immortal nodded. "You have some knowledge, little girl." "Yes, it's the very same Ancient Sacred Abyss. It's located in a space-time storm, nearly impossible to find. It only reveals traces when it's about to appear in the world. I never expected it to manifest now, Lingxi said, her eyes flickering slightly. The ancient sacred abyss? I've heard of it, though it's said to be extremely perilous, with an environment so harsh that even a perfect Earth Supreme could fall if not careful. What? Sister Lingxi is also interested in this place. Luo Li tilted her head slightly in confusion. It's said that during the Great Battle in ancient times, nearly 10 heavenly supremes from the Great Thousand Worlds fell into the ancient sacred abyss, and among them, were saint-grade heavenly supremes. Lingxi said seriously. In the Great Thousand Worlds, even heavenly supremes had rankings: spirit, immortal, and saint. Saint-grade heavenly supremes were considered the pinnacle beings in the Great Thousand Worlds. For saint-grade heavenly supremes? Upon hearing this, even Luo Li's delicate face changed slightly. This was undoubtedly an extremely terrifying lineup, and if they had fallen, it would have been an incalculable loss to the entire Great Thousand World. This demonstrated the tremendous cost the Great Thousand Worlds had paid to resist the extraterritorial evil clan in ancient times. Although we suffered heavy losses in that battle, the extraterritorial evil clan didn't fare any better. They also sent dozens of demon emperors, and in the end, 4 of their top 15 heavenly demon emperors fell, Red Flame Old Immortal added. In the extraterritorial evil clan, heavenly demon emperors were equivalent to the heavenly supremes of the Great Thousand Worlds. To be ranked in the top 15 meant they were among the most transcendent beings in the entire extraterritorial evil clan. Because so many super powerful beings fell, numerous legacies of heavenly supremes, unparalleled divine abilities, and supreme sacred items beyond high-grade saint-level artifacts remained there. Although the ancient sacred abyss is incredibly dangerous, countless powerful beings from the Great Thousand Worlds still attempt to enter, hoping for the chance to acquire the legacy of a fallen heavenly supreme and rise to the peak. However, since the ancient sacred abyss is in a space-time storm, only a heavenly supreme can send someone in. This barrier has stopped many greedy souls. Yet, despite that, countless people still rush forward. Even our supreme spirit ancient clan is no exception. At this point, Red Flame Old Immortal licked his lips, a fiery glint suddenly appearing in his eyes. Among the 4 saint-grade heavenly supremes who fell back then, one was our clan's ancestor. The divine ability he cultivated, Supreme Spirit Heavenly Light, was one of the 36 supreme divine abilities in the Great Thousand Worlds, immensely powerful. Even within our supreme spirit ancient clan, it was the most advanced divine ability. Unfortunately, with the fall of our ancestor, the method of cultivating this divine ability was lost. The wish of countless members of our clan is to recover this supreme divine ability. So, whoever can recover this unparalleled divine ability will surpass all the other competitors and gain the recognition and support of every clan member, becoming the saintess of our supreme spirit ancient clan. Upon hearing this, Luo Li suddenly spoke. So, there are other competitors for the position of saintess? Only by recovering the supreme spirit heavenly light, divine ability can one become the true saintess. The fervor on Red Flame Old Immortal's face froze in an instant. He coughed awkwardly and said, I am merely one of the boundary patrol envoys of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan, responsible for finding suitable candidates for the saintess. Luo Li couldn't help but give him a roll of her eyes. She had known it all along, the saintess of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan was no easy feat. All that talk turned out to be about a mere candidate. Upon seeing Luo Li's look, Red Flame Old Immortal's face reddened slightly, and he could only smile awkwardly in response. Suddenly, the bamboo pavilion fell into silence, with only Lingxi's beautiful eyes flickering as she seemed lost in thought. After a moment, she slowly spoke. Aside from the supreme divine ability, Supreme Spirit Heavenly Light, among the 4 fallen immortal grade heavenly supremes, there seems to be an elder from the Futu ancient clan? Red Flame Old Immortal nodded and quickly replied, yes, the elder from the Futu ancient clan is indeed extraordinary. He practices the Eightfold Pagoda, which is also one of the 36 supreme divine abilities. Now, the young masters of the Futu ancient clan are all eager to take it back, because there's an old rule in their clan that whoever can reclaim the Eightfold Pagoda will become the next clan leader. Upon hearing this, Lingxi's beautiful eyes instantly shone with brilliance. Luo Li glanced at Lingxi and, with her sharp mind, immediately understood what the latter was planning. Clearly, she wanted Mu Chen to compete for the Eightfold Pagoda. If successful, perhaps Mu Chen could use it to rescue his mother from the Futu ancient clan. Luo Li wholeheartedly agreed with this approach. After all, if Mu Chen confronted them head-on, it would be incredibly difficult, as the Futu ancient clan's foundation was too terrifying. As she thought about it, Luo Li pondered for a moment. She wasn't particularly interested in the saintess of the supreme spirit ancient clan. As for inheritances, she already possessed the Luotian inheritance. The Luotian divine body would give her a huge advantage even against heavenly supremes. However, if she truly became the saintess of the supreme spirit ancient clan, she would gain the support of this powerful clan. And if one day Mu Chen had to sever ties with the Futu ancient clan for her mother's sake, perhaps she could offer him some help. Luo Li now understood that the Luotian clan's background no longer had much to offer Mu Chen. If she wanted to help him in the future, she might need to rely on the influence of the supreme spirit ancient clan. From her perspective, she had little interest in the supreme spirit ancient clan. But if it was for Mu Chen, she would be willing to do so. With that thought, Luo Li gently pressed her lips together, then looked up to meet Lingxi's gaze. The two of them exchanged a silent understanding, knowing each other's intentions. In Lingxi's eyes, there was a hint of gratitude. After all, if they went ahead with this plan, Luo Li would inevitably have to compete with other candidates for the saintess position. It would not be an easy task. Luo Li, however, simply smiled faintly. After all, Mu Chen had offended the Western Heaven Battle Emperor without hesitation for her sake. So, what was a little competition and challenge for her? In a brief moment, the two women exchanged thoughts. Luo Li then turned and, with a soft smile, addressed Red Flame Old Immortal, who still looked troubled. Senior, it's not impossible for me to become a saintess candidate, but there is one condition I need you to agree to. Oh. Red Flame Old Immortal, who had given up hope, immediately became excited and waved his hand. Speak your mind. Luo Li smiled faintly, her elegance truly unmatched. She pointed toward the place where Mu Chen was in seclusion. I hope Senior can send us into the ancient sacred abyss. A month later, Mu Chen, still imprisoned in the underground prison, slowly opened his long-closed eyes. His pitch-black pupils glowed with restrained spiritual light, deep and vast like the starry sky. The light in his eyes flickered, and after a while, everything returned to normal. Whoosh! A white stream of air shot from Mu Chen's mouth, flying out but not dispersing. Instead, it continued to condense in front of him. After a few breaths, the air had gradually formed a small spirit array. Though this spirit array was simple, it had been formed by Mu Chen's breath alone. This was enough to show the massive improvement in his spirit array skills. In the past, he could never have turned his breath into a spirit array. However, it's still a pity. I'm still half a step away from breaking through to the high-rank Grandmaster level. Mu Chen gazed at the white spiritual array in front of him, watching it gradually dissipate. He sighed with some regret, but that feeling lasted only a moment before it faded away. This was because Mu Chen could sense that, compared to 2 months ago, his mastery of spiritual arrays had improved remarkably. However, breaking through to a high-rank Grandmaster level was clearly not as easy as he had imagined. Still, he had a feeling that as long as he continued to reflect on and absorb the insights and experiences left by his mother, breaking through to a high-rank Grandmaster would just be a matter of time. Although he had not yet succeeded in breaking through, Mu Chen knew that he had now qualified to attempt high-rank Grandmaster spiritual arrays. However, the failure rate for such attempts would be relatively high. Overall, this period of secluded cultivation had been highly beneficial for him. Not only was he on the verge of breaking through to a high-rank Grandmaster, but he was also beginning to understand the direction for advancing to the great Grandmaster level. This would help him avoid many unnecessary detours when striving to reach that level in the future. Additionally, within the spiritual array insights and experiences his mother left behind, there were 2 particularly useful items, 2 array diagrams. One was for a high-rank Grandmaster spiritual array, the Blazing Sovereign Array. The second diagram was even more terrifying, so much so that Mu Chen was shaken to the core. The diagram depicted a great Grandmaster-level spiritual array, the Solar Annihilation Array. Just hearing the name of such an array made Mu Chen's heart race, and a sense of longing followed. He couldn't help but wonder what kind of world-destroying power such a spiritual array would unleash once activated. After all, even a heavenly supreme would undoubtedly fear an array of this caliber. Unfortunately, although Mu Chen could still gain some insight into the high-rank Grandmaster spiritual array and begin experimenting with it, he was completely shaken by the great Grandmaster-level array. After a single glance, he could not even attempt it, let alone comprehend the array's intricate arrangements. Clearly, he was still far from reaching the level of understanding needed for such an array. Thus, he decided to place the great Grandmaster-level array deep in his mind, intending to study it further when the time was right. For now, his priority was to fully comprehend the blazing sovereign array. Once he could successfully arrange it, he would likely have broken through to high-rank Grandmaster level. A variety of thoughts passed through his mind, and then Chen looked down at the smooth, mirror-like black stone floor, smiling faintly. Mother, don't worry. The day I step into the great Grandmaster realm will be the day I come to bring you home from the Futu ancient clan. By then, even the once unreachable Heavenly Supreme would face a force capable of challenging it. Chen gently ran his hand across the ground, then stood up, vanishing from the spot in an instant. On Emerald Spirit Island, in the bamboo pavilion, Luo Li and Ling Shi couldn't hide their joy when they saw Chen suddenly appear before them. How did it go? Ling Shi asked, her beautiful eyes fixed on Chen. Just one step away. Chen smiled and replied. Ling Shi, upon hearing this, was not disappointed. Instead, she nodded with a soft chuckle. Having immersed herself in spiritual array cultivation for many years, she knew just how difficult it was to break through to high-rank Grandmaster. Even though Chen had received numerous insights and experiences left by Aunt Jing, such knowledge couldn't possibly be fully absorbed in just 2 months. Moreover, judging by Chen's appearance, he had clearly made significant progress and seemed confident that he would achieve the breakthrough in the near future. We shouldn't stay here much longer. It's better to leave soon, Chen said, looking at Luo Li and Ling Shi. After all, this was the Futu ancient clan's territory. While Xun'er and Liang Evil Fish had escaped, if the Futu ancient clan discovered their presence, they would undoubtedly send other powerful individuals to recapture them. Staying here for too long could put them in a passive situation. Although Chen's strength had grown significantly, he wasn't arrogant. He understood that, when facing a giant like the Futu ancient clan, attempting a direct confrontation would be the most foolish approach. Luo Li exchanged a glance with Ling Shi before speaking softly. We plan to go to the ancient sacred abyss. Ancient sacred abyss? Chen was stunned. This place sounded quite unfamiliar to him. Luo Li gave a slight smile before sharing all the information about the ancient sacred abyss with Chen, including her agreement with the Red Flame Old Immortal to become a candidate for the Saintess of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan. You agreed to compete for the position of Saintess in the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan? Chen was taken aback after hearing Luo Li's words, but instead of focusing on the legendary divine ability she mentioned, he asked with concern. He knew very well how fierce the competition would be to become the Saintess of the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan. Seeing Chen's immediate focus on her decision, Luo Li couldn't help but feel a sweetness in her heart. She smiled and said, the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan has deep foundations, and if I can become their Saintess, it will be a tremendous opportunity for me. Although she said this, Chen knew her well. In some ways, Luo Li was like him, independent and confident. She had her own pride and, even relying on herself, was capable of striving for the heavenly supreme realm without external help. Thus, there must be other reasons behind her decision. Perhaps she hoped to help him more in the future. Chen looked at her with a complicated expression, while Luo Li, smiling brightly, gently took his hand, clearly having made up her mind. However, Chen was not one to overthink. He understood the sacrifices Luo Li had made for him, and he kept them in his heart. He said nothing further and resolved to support her wholeheartedly if that was what she wanted. But I didn't expect that the ancient sacred abyss would contain the Eightfold Pagoda and Supreme Spirit Heavenly Light, 2 legendary divine abilities that are famous throughout the Great Thousand Worlds. Chen now shifted his focus to these 2 peerless divine abilities, and couldn't help but click his tongue. Having practiced one of the 36 supreme divine abilities, once she transforms 3 purities, he was well aware of the terrifying power such abilities could wield. These abilities were among the very top of the 36 divine abilities in the Great Thousand Worlds. Facing such abilities, even the Heavenly Supremes would be moved. Otherwise, the Futu Ancient Clan and the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan wouldn't have spent so many years trying to recover them. If I can obtain the Eightfold Pagoda, once I reach the perfect Earth Supreme realm, even if I encounter a true Heavenly Supreme, I might be able to put up a fight, Chen thought, his eyes flickering with determination. The gap between the Earth Supreme and the Heavenly Supreme was like a chasm, difficult to cross. But clearly, those 36 peerless divine abilities could bridge that gap. Heh, you're really dreaming big, aren't you? The young masters of the Futu Ancient Clan are all eyeing the Eightfold Pagoda. It won't be so easy to take it from them. Red Flame Old Immortal chuckled, seeing through Chen's thoughts. While Chen had exceptional talent, he lacked the resources that the young masters of the Futu Ancient Clan enjoyed. Compared to them, even with his abilities, he still had some distance to go. However, Chen smiled calmly and replied, "You never know. It's the one who laughs last that matters." Seeing Chen remain so calm, Red Flame Old Immortal was a little surprised. He hadn't expected the young man to have such an unshaken and fearless mindset. "You're not bad, kid. If you didn't have the Futu Ancient Clan's bloodline, I'd be tempted to recommend you to join the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan," Red Flame Old Immortal said, stroking his beard. Reaching this level at such a young age through sheer effort was impressive. In fact, even the young masters of the Futu Ancient Clan might not have been able to do it. Haha. I'd really like to see the expressions of those stubborn old fogies in the Futu Ancient Clan when you reach the Heavenly Supreme Realm. These old fools are always saying that the Supreme Spirit Ancient Clan is disregarding ancient traditions and lowering their noble bloodline. They're so narrow-minded. Seeing Red Flame Old Immortal's smug expression, Chen couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. He cupped his hands and said, "Senior Red Flame, we'll be counting on you for the trip to the ancient sacred abyss. This is something I promised Luoli, so it's only right." Red Flame Old Immortal waved his hand. "However, I can only take you there. Whether you can obtain the Eightfold Pagoda or Supreme Spirit Heavenly Light will depend on your own luck." Chen nodded. "When do we leave?" "No time like the present. Let's go now." The Red Flame Old Immortal acted swiftly, without wasting any words. He waved his sleeve, and the crimson gourd at his waist instantly expanded, growing to a size of 100 feet. With a shift of his body, he appeared atop the gourd. Chen, Luoli, Lingxi, and Long Xiang saw this and quickly followed, landing on the gourd as well. "Let's go." The Red Flame Old Immortal laughed heartily. The crimson gourd trembled violently, causing the space ahead to instantly distort, as though a spatial vortex had formed. With a leap, the gourd darted through the twisted space. Chen sat cross-legged on the gourd, gazing at the flickering crimson gourd that continuously jumped through space. His eyes gradually filled with an inexplicable expression. "So, it's the young master of the Futu Ancient Clan. Regardless, this Eightfold Pagoda is something I will not allow you to take."